Right now, there are 7 largely forgotten vintage watch brands whose history, engineering, and mechanical quality sit right alongside Rolex and Omega. The modern watch market is incredibly concentrated. If you walk into a boutique today, you are heavily penalized financially just to get a recognized logo on the dial. You end up paying extreme premiums for very basic mass-market horology. But if you know where to look, there is a very clear alternative. We can bypass the boutique entirely by looking at Enicar, Universal Geneve, Movado, Wittnauer, Favre-Leuba, Mido, and LeCoultre. Choosing these brands requires a specific trade-off. You have to be willing to walk away from modern mainstream brand recognition. Nobody at dinner is going to immediately recognize what is on your wrist. In exchange for letting go of that status, you gain access to elite, historically significant mechanical engineering, almost entirely for under $1,500. Finding value in today's market requires looking where the mainstream isn't. These 7 brands provide a roadmap for building a collection defined by history and mechanics rather than retail markup. We start with Enicar. Founded in 1913, they focused heavily on producing professional tool watches. From a purely functional standpoint, the waterproof cases and legibility they developed matched the quality Rolex was producing at the exact same time. They proved that durability on the mountain. Enicar's famous Sherpa series got its name directly from the local climbers who guided the early, punishing Everest expeditions, relying on these watches in freezing, high-altitude environments. This matrix shows Enicar's specific numbers. Their standout models are the Sherpa Graph and Sherpa Dive. They wear beautifully with case sizes between 36 and 40 millimeters, running on serviceable ETA 2472 automatic movements. The most compelling metric is price. At $200 to $450, it's a forgiving entry point. You give up the prestige of the Rolex crown, but you get a true luxury-tier Swiss tool watch with Everest heritage for roughly a quarter of the price. If you want to step up the mechanical complexity, we look to Universal Geneve. Established in 1894, this is a brand that serious purists revere. They didn't just build tough cases, they built highly advanced mechanical complications. This scorecard highlights their 2 legendary models. You have the Compax, an intricately balanced column wheel chronograph, and you have the Polar Router, which utilized a micro-rotor. By shrinking the automatic winding weight and setting it directly inside the movement, they created one of the slimmest automatic watches on the market. Because of that advanced engineering, the entry price sits strictly between $800 and $1,500. The financial input is higher here, but the trade-off delivers technical prestige that competes directly with the holy trinity of Swiss watchmaking. Today, Movado is mostly recognized for the minimalist museum watch you see in shopping malls, but if you rewind to the period between the 1930s and 1970s, you find a massive catalog of technical brilliance. Looking at their spec sheet, the standout mechanical achievement is the calendomic. This highly complex triple calendar movement physically tracks the date, day, and month. They also produced the Kingmatic, a self-winding piece with distinct Art Deco dial designs, accessible between $200 and $600. Buying vintage Movado means accepting some modern brand dilution. In return, you get access to stunning mid-century dial artistry and complex calendar mechanics for pennies on the dollar. Wittnauer operates on a different historical track. Founded in New York in 1885, they eventually joined the Longines corporate family in 1929. That merger gave them direct access to elite Swiss engineering and testing standards. Those standards earned them a legitimate place in American space-age history. Long before the Omega Speedmaster became standard issue, early NASA astronauts actively wore Wittnauer chronographs during their training and missions. This scorecard breaks down the watches they wore. The Wittnauer professional chronograph runs on a Valjoux manual wind movement, highly respected for its robust mechanical reliability under pressure. Despite that deep historical pedigree, you can still find them today for $200 to $400. To own a piece of true space history, you have to accept the daily routine of physically winding the watch yourself. For the engaged collector, that physical interaction is a massive benefit. Favre-Leuba holds the title of the oldest continuously named Swiss watch brand in existence, dating back to 1737. They built their mid-century reputation entirely on incredibly robust tool watches. In 1962, they released their defining achievement, the bivouac. This tool was designed for high-altitude climbers who needed to track shifting weather patterns and atmospheric pressure during an ascent. As the spec matrix shows, the bivouac contained a mechanical altimeter and barometer module. It was the first watch capable of measuring atmospheric pressure purely through mechanical friction, with absolutely no electronics. Because of that module, case sizes push larger, up to 40 millimeters, with pricing between $300 and $700. You gain a groundbreaking, hyper-specific atmospheric complication, but you have to accept a thicker, bulkier case on the wrist, and the reality of highly specialized servicing for that altimeter module. Established in 1918, Mido is easily one of the most underappreciated names in vintage collecting. They built their entire reputation on executing two things perfectly: solid, hermetically sealed case engineering, and highly reliable self-winding movements. Their signature vintage release was the Ocean Star. Mido built this professional-grade diver to compete for the same military and commercial underwater contracts as the Rolex Submariner and Omega Seamaster. Looking at their numbers, they deliver excellent value. They offer modern case sizing at 38 to 40 millimeters, and they are powered by highly durable, easily serviced ETA-based automatic movements, all starting around $200. You secure immense engineering reliability at a fraction of a submariner's cost. The only catch is that because they were used so heavily as actual tools, you have to hunt carefully to find a well-preserved case. Finally, we look at LeCoultre. Founded in 1833, they were historically the master movement supplier to the entire industry. Their calibers physically powered watches from giants like Vacheron Constantin, Patek Philippe, and Rolex. This matrix shows what they built for themselves. The standout is the Memovox. By engineering a tiny vibrating hammer directly into the caliber, they created the world's first automatic wristwatch alarm. They also built the Futurematic, designed completely without a traditional side crown. The time is set using a flat dial on the caseback. Because of this unusual engineering, a clean example costs between $500 and $1,000. You have to give up traditional, expected conveniences, like a standard winding crown, to own a LeCoultre. But in exchange, you wear avant-garde, world-first horology. Navigating the vintage market successfully relies on technical knowledge rather than retail availability. Deciding which brand to buy depends on how you weigh price against mechanical complexity. This 2x2 chart maps exactly how you should spend your budget, plotting financial input on the bottom against horological complexity on the side. If you are a beginner looking to optimize your budget, stick to this accessible quadrant. Enicar, Movado, and Mido provide reliable automatic movements, great history, and distinct design, all under $500. If you are driven by specialized utility and history, look at Wittnauer for true space-age chronographs, or Favre-Leuba for raw atmospheric measurement. And if you are an advanced horologist ready to spend closer to $1,000, Universal Geneve and LeCoultre deliver high complications and micro-rotors that hold their own in any serious collection. By choosing to bypass mainstream hype, you trade the instant recognition of a Rolex for the quiet confidence of a true horologist, building a historically rich collection for the cost of a single modern watch.